Hello, my name is Mira Foote, and I welcome you to this short video offering some tips and maybe a few tricks to help you create accurate and error-free works cited pages when using MLA-style documentation. Before we begin, please get your pocket style manual because we'll be referring to it. Now, let's recall that MLA-style documentation is a keyed system. This means that a keyword in the text of your paper, like here, which will either be the author's last name or a shortened title of the work. Here it's the author's last name, right? The word Lutz is the author's last name. That keyword will be the first word of its companion entry on your works cited page. And here it is. This is crucial. The keywords must always match. When your reader wants to know where you got your information, that reader expects the in-text citation there and expects the match so that they can then look at the details. By the way, notice this is the basic format for how to do a works cited entry from any anthology, but of course I've chosen the anthology with which all of you are familiar, the Brief Bedford Reader. For any essay from that anthology, switch out the name of the writer, the name of the article, and the page numbers, and you have it. Okay? Remember, it's a keyed system. Don't disappoint your reader. Make sure you have your in-text citation with the keyword. If there's no author, you put a shortened version, or if it isn't a long title, the title of the article instead. Here, you use the name of the writer. Now, you knew all that, let's say. You understood, for example, that MLA-style documentation requires both citation of source in your paper and the works cited page, and that both of these are absolute requirements for every college paper. One more thing, the works cited page is a part of the paper, not a separate document. It's the last page of your paper. Okay, you knew that. Moving on. So how do you easily find, organize, and keep the information that you need during the time you're researching your paper, and just as easily transfer all of that information to your final product, the works cited list that will be judged by your instructor? So here's my first suggestion. Keep a working bibliography as a diary of your research. Never leave the task of writing a works cited paper to the end after you've drafted the paper. That will make your life very, very miserable. Instead, keep a working bibliography. Here's an example entry of a working bibliography. Now, for the moment, I don't have a hanging indent, and you'll have to forgive me because I couldn't fit it on my slide. But this, as we'll see in a second, is the basic format. Last name and first name of a writer when we have one, the title of an article, the container from which it comes, in this case, the magazine New Yorker, the volume, number, the date of publication, the page number, and the permalink, and the name of the database from which the article comes, and finally the permalink. We'll look at all that. This entry is the same entry that you'll have on your works cited page, and I'll show you where to find all of that, but keep a working bibliography. That's my point. Now, furthermore, to make your life even easier, keeping this research diary, give yourself some notes to remind you what the article's about. So here I've written for myself that this article explains that Michael Bennett tried to use his influence as an NFL player to help the Black Lives Matter movement. And I decided to remind myself that I want to use the information in this essay for my introduction. Keep notes like that to help yourself stay organized. Never, never write your paper out in a crazed hurry, quoting wildly from your source, because the next thing that I want to tell you about is the importance of taking notes and avoiding plagiarism. Always update your working bibliography and take notes on your sources and cite while you draft. I can't emphasize that enough. While you're writing out your rough draft of your paper, resist the impulse to go blindly ahead and just get it all down without saying where you're putting that piece, where that piece of information that or that fact that you're putting in your paper, where it comes from. Stop, be disciplined, look at your bibliography, write the name of the source from whose work you got your information, or you'll be sorry. That's the road to plagiarism, trust me. Avoid using too many quotations. Always keep track of page numbers where you've borrowed wording, even short phrases. If you think you're paraphrasing, change the words and also the whole grammatical structure of sentences. You can do that better if you read, then look away, and without looking at the source, write what you think it means and then check your comprehension. Again, avoid the plagiarism. Take notes. Keep track of your information. Yes, this is about writing a works cited page. Now here come the basics of a works cited entry, and now you're going to want to go to your brief style manual. Pages 142 and 143 lay out very clearly just the basic guidelines for what to put in a works cited page. They give you information that you might have really thought was kind of random, but isn't. For example, how the items within each entry are organized. First the author's name, then the title of the article, then the name of the journal or first container where it's located, the number, the publication date of the journal, the name of the database, and so forth. It tells you, for example, such important notes that you have to alphabetize the works cited page by keyword. So by the first word in every entry, it's got to be alphabetized. It tells you also what words in each entry should be capitalized. Your teachers care about that kind of expression detail. When to use quotation marks, when to use italics, what words you can abbreviate and what those abbreviations should be. And for example, when you're on a website and you're supposed to say what the publisher of the website is, these 2 pages tell you where to look for that information and more. So please use your paid for book and look at pages 142 and 143. 4 key sources that you'll be using in all of your papers are listed in the Pocket Style Manual on special large pages that give you an extra easy way to understand how to format those sources. So on page 156, it tells you how to format the information in an entry on the works cited page for books. On pages 158 to 9, it tells you how to do that for an anthology, which we already discussed. On page 162, it tells you how to organize information from web articles and sources in your entry, and finally from articles from the college databases on page 152. So take note of those page numbers and realize that that's going to be almost all the sources that you're going to use. You have it right there listed in your Pocket Style Manual. Now, when we go to the library, there's a lot of different tricks to help you find citations. So we're going to look right now in the library. I'm going to go out of this PowerPoint and bear with me while I do that. And we're going to look at some of the citation tools that help us get information. And I'm going to teach you how to work with the citation tools to improve on them because they aren't always perfect. So first, let me get out of here, go back to my browser, and open up the result list for a search. I did a search on toxic masculinity in quotation as a phrase and football, and this was the result list that I got. So the first thing I want to do is click on the name of my source, and then I want to take note immediately. This is the source, meaning this is an article that was published in the Daily Beast then, and notice that this is also the publisher. It's important to notice this is the name of a newspaper, but this is also the name of the publisher. It's the company. When those names are the same on a website, sometimes you have to actually write them out twice. But I want to also have you note that when you click on the title, right at the bottom, you get the name of the database. Jot it down now, because when you go to the citation tool, there will be a generic term, Gale, EBSCOhost rather. EBSCOhost is not correct, and your teacher will take off points if you leave that in your works cited entry. So jot down Gale in context opposing viewpoints right now, and take note also that there's no digital object identifier listed here. It's also called a DOI. If there is a DOI, MLA prefers it. But if there's not a DOI, then you're going to need the permalink here. And I'm going to go ahead and click on that. What you're going to do is go in here and notice this is different than the URL above. Do not copy the URL above. Instead, copy and paste this entire permalink onto your bibliography, because you're going to need to check it against the permalink listed in the citation tool. Now, let's go to the citation tool on the toolbar of the right side here. We scroll down and we look for the MLA citation, and you say to yourself, wow, this is great, it gives me everything all done and now I have nothing to worry about. Well, yes and no. You are going to go ahead and copy and paste this, but I warned you, this EBSCOhost is not the name of the database. You will need to switch out Gale in context opposing viewpoints. That's the name of the database, and don't forget that you'll want that italicized. So you're going to copy and paste this to your working bibliography, which later will become your works cited page. In quotation marks you have the name of the article. In italics you have the name of the publication and the year it was published. You're going to have the name of the database, and this is the permalink. You'll have to check and see if those permalinks match. If you had from the Daily Beast a date of publication, you would want that as well. Let's go to my note page and I'll show you a few really lovely tricks. So let's pretend this is my working bibliography, and this is the copied and pasted citation that you just saw. Notice this shadow, messy. So let's get rid of it. We're going to go ahead and highlight that. Now look at this icon up here where it has kind of an eraser. Now when I click on that, it takes away that shadow. And just so this is more easily visible, I'm going to make the font big again. And there you go. Now remember, EBSCOhost is wrong. Instead, we're going to write Gale in context opposing viewpoints, and the name of this container needs to be italicized for a works cited page. That's the rule. And the name of this container, the name of the newspaper, needs to be italicized as well. I'm assuming that we didn't have a specific date of publication. That now is the correct citation. Notice that I also switched it from the other font to Times New Roman, which is important. We like Times New Roman. Finally, in order to have this done properly, you need to go to your line spacing, double space, and then go back, and where it says line spacing options, under special, choose hanging in the drop down menu, click on OK, and now you have a properly formatted and properly, with everything in it, your works cited entry. Okay? That should be a capital O there, my bad. All right. Now, let's go back to our PowerPoint. So, we said database search citation tools and the toolbar on the side after we click on the article's name. We said we make sure we know the name of the database. We said we look for a DOI, but if there is one, make sure to get the accurate permalink, which you would have checked. We're going to clean up copied and pasted citations, just as we did, and get rid of the EBSCOhost. So that's wonderful. And now there's something called Noodlebib that I'd like to show you. So I'm going to go out of here very briefly, go back in here to the library, and go to the library home. If you notice, first of all, I want to point out to you, you can chat with librarians to get help at a variety of different times. But look over here. All you have to do is click on Noodlebib, and it'll take you through a sign-in process that will help you format your works cited entries. I'm not going to click on here and go in with it because this video has to be over. But you can do it yourself, and it's really quite easy. A final word, and then indeed we're done. I visited Princeton with my son, and this is the advice that they gave their students. It's good advice, so make sure you follow it.